quantity testing. If your sample data is different from a known value, try one sample t-test. In this quick guide, we'll show you how to use an engineer to check if your data is significantly different from a set value. But wait, what is one sample t-test?
A one sample t-test compares the average of your sample data to a null population average. You use it to see if your sample mean is different from a specific value, like checking if your t-score differ from the national average.
Here's an example. Filipinos spend an average of 3.72 hours per day accessing their social media accounts on various devices in January 2023. Our researchers decided to test if the average usage and their subdivision differs from the reported value. He randomly selected 40 residents and their area and asked them, how long do you usually use your social media accounts on various devices in a day? The null hypothesis: the average usage of mapping subdivision residents is not different from the national average 3.72 hours. The alternative hypothesis: the average usage of Masipag subdivision residents is different from the national average 3.72 hours.
Now go to the movie. From the example, the dependent variable is respondent's social media usage in terms of hours. All in all, we have 40 samples. The data is continuous, so the first assumption is met. Since each data is coming from a different household, samples are not related to each other. With this, the second assumption was met. To check for outliers, go to Analysis Exploration and Descriptives. Then drag the social media usage in the dependent variable box. Here, the sample mean is 4.80, making it larger than the hypothesized mean of 3.72. Press the drop-down panel and name plots and select box. For the dataset, there are no outliers because there are no points beyond the plot. If an outlier is present, the figure will have this point. Number 1 here refers to the outlier in row 1. To test the normality, select the statistic drop-down panel and choose Shapiro-Wilk. If the p-value of the Shapiro-Wilk test is greater than 0.05, data is normal. In this case, since the p-value is 0.22 and greater than 0.05, our sample data set is approximately normally distributed. Now that we have all the assumptions, we can proceed with the one sample t-test. Go to Analysis t-test and one sample t-test. Transfer or drag the social media usage in the dependent variable box. In the hypothesis section, we can select the type of text that we need to use. If it is a two-tailed test, select the first circle. If it is a right-tailed test, select the second. And if it is a left-tailed test, choose the last. The hypothesized mean in the problem is 3.72. You may select the mean difference to compare the sample mean from the hypothesis mean. Here, the sample mean is 1.08 hours, larger than the hypothesis mean. But is this difference significant or not? The positive t-test confirms that the sample mean precedes the hypothesis mean. It will be negative if the hypothesized mean precedes the sample mean with a degree of freedom of 39 and the p-value less than 0.001 or 1%. The decision is to reject the null hypothesis. By rejecting the null hypothesis, we will now conclude that Masipag subdivision residents' average usage differs from the national average of 3.72.